Howdy, folks. Reading Chapter 3, Destiny and the New Girl. Destiny had always thought he hated his name. As a child, the teasing had started when the other children realized that there were boy names and girl names, and that he possessed the wrong one. It didn't matter that there was a cute story behind it that would have netted him at least a supporting role in a romantic comedy, if there was any justice. The awkwardness of the name had passed along through to adolescence, and now he bore it in what he hoped was an acceptable manner, correcting the occasional substitute teacher, and acknowledging that Destin was not too terribly awful. It had scarred him, though, and much of his social interactions were stunted by those initial terrible moments when a new person entered his life. This mattered, of course, because a new person had entered his life. There was a new girl at the school. She was pretty, because of course she was, and would have easily eclipsed the local girls purely on account of her newness. But she was pretty despite that. She stood at the front, bathed in the new girl glory that came from entering a school in October, clutching a small notebook, but strangely it didn't fit her at all. Destiny would have assumed that she'd have some sort of the kind that trendy girls always had in teen movies, decorated with the picture of some obscure scientist or artist, and filled with the earnest creations of a teenage girl. Her hopes and dreams would probably be in there, and she'd probably hid it when she wasn't carrying it around with her. But instead, this was a child's notebook, with animal stickers on a little lock that probably didn't actually lock, but gave the illusion of privacy to a little girl. The pink streamers being used as markers in the diary did not make it any more adult. But who was Destiny to judge this strange girl with her child's notebook? There was something else about her, but it seemed to skid off Destin, as if it were something above him, beyond him. He could tell there was something magical about her, but there was something magical about all pretty girls. It simply wasn't meant for people like Destiny. His own name aside, he really hated his name, if for no reason than the promise it denied. He had almost accepted living in a small town for the rest of his life, if solely for the comfort of never having to explain the name to a single new person. He longed for the comfort of initials that came from being an older man in a small town. DM he'd be called. DM Hunt, who worked at the tractor store. DM lost another cow the other day, did you hear? Why had he lost a cow? Who knew? DM was mysterious that way. He was pulled from this imaginary future by the new girl beginning to recite her work. Her first day in English class, and she was already sharing her work. She was definitely out of Destiny's league. Why I hate Destiny, the girl intoned. Half the class was giggling. All of them were alternating looking between Destiny and the new girl. Was there some sort of secret between the two somewhere in their past? Destiny turned bright red and tried to will himself invisible. The new girl was clearly shaken at the response of the class, but gathered her resolve, took a deep breath, and continued. You can't trust Destiny. He'll always let you down. When you need a champion, he'll show up as a clown. Destiny promised that a rich life I would lead. Instead have I found that there's no heroic deed. I am not a princess or a pirate or a knight. I am not a damsel or a lover or inspiring of a fight. I was promised greatness and a meaning of my own, but here I am forgotten, unnoticed, and unknown. Destiny makes great promises, and he says you are the one, but leaves you alone in darkness when the story's said and done. Destiny wants me to seek him and make me chase him down, but Destiny's a liar and a villain, and I'm worthy of renown. I should be a hero, and I should have my day, so if Destiny comes calling, I'll tell him to go away. As the poem had continued, Destin had sunk further into his chair, and eventually covered his face. The children had initially grown louder as she read, but eventually they'd all lapsed into a stunned silence. Destiny could feel the eyes of the entire class upon him, and despite the obvious support from his few dear friends, he felt the abyss threatening to swallow him up. As the new girl finished, there was some scattered and weak applause. The new girl stared past all the students, seemingly above them and unaware of the danger she had just wrought on one of their own. The teacher, Mr. Andrews, a kind and gentle, if overly exuberant soul, cleared his throat, and the room grew respectfully silent. Destin, I just remembered that I need these attendance forms delivered to the office. Perhaps you and Miss Sartori could deliver them for me? Destin's dry mouth worked as he struggled to make even a single sound. His eyes felt full, his stomach a churning pit. His body was about to betray him, as it has since the second grade. He was about to become a double laughingstock. He'd have to move. So long to living in obscurity. Goodbye to DM Hunt and his mysterious lost cows. He'd have to move, and then he'd have to explain his name to an entirely different set of people. This hell would never end. He was saved from whatever horrible event his body planned to unleash upon him by Amelia, his best and dearest friend, saying, "Of course, Mr. Andrews. Those attendance forms are of absolute importance and urgency, and Destin and I will deliver them with all due haste to the attendant's office," she airily stated as she dragged him into the hallway. "Have no concerns about this, Mr. A. We're on the case." As she bodily dragged him from the room, he saw Sandra Culkin whispering frantically to the new girl, and the new girl eyeing him as he left. It may have been his imagination, but he thought he saw pity in her eyes. Maybe regret. "That bitch," said Amelia as the door to the classroom closed. I mean, the poetry was okay. Did scan. And sure, she looked amazing, but that bitch, she doesn't even know you. The door had barely closed, and already Amelia was hurling invective at the new girl. Destin was leaned against the lockers, long locked and no longer for student use. He was having trouble just breathing, but somehow managed to muster, She didn't know. She doesn't know my name." Amelia stared at him critically, like a doctor checking to see if a patient would live. "This is the worst fucking luck I have ever heard of, Dee. Ouch." She slumped against the wall briefly. Destiny looked for something to say. He didn't know if he could talk without crying, which didn't feel manly at all. He croaked experimentally. "Did you guys notice anything weird about the new girl?" Amelia looked at him appraisingly. "You mean the new girl who just shattered your self-image and literally defiled your name in a mean poem?" She glanced as she looked past him through the small window in the door. "The new girl who is coming this way, presumably to apologize?" Destiny freaked out, but he was frozen. Amelia spoke, attempting to break the spell. "She's coming this way, Dee. What's the plan? Stand here and awkwardly accept the apology?" Destiny was already halfway down the hall, ducking into the bathroom. Or run and hide in the bathroom. Classic Destiny. She turned to face the new girl exiting the classroom. And that's the end of Chapter 3.